This whole premise of this podcast, I think you might understand because you've listened to a few episodes, but it goes back to just that time period of late 90s, early 2000s, and you guys basically started from Wikipedia says 95. It's when you guys disbanded. You guys came together from your other bands and formed Elliott in 95, right? 96, 95?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I get really confused sometimes about the whole time frame of it, but that sounds about on course.
So really, it's going to be going back to that time period and talking about the origins of the band, the scene, Louisville, and all that. But currently, you guys are getting together because you just had a 20-year reunion, and so it's just kind of like talk about like what's going on and what's going on presently. Even though I'll have you probably talk about it at the end, but
Sure.
yeah. So what's bringing all this on?
Really, everybody has kind of Furnace Fest to, thank for all this, because for years they've been asking and asking and asking, and there's always been something, and it still is continuous things that make things difficult. But I think with all this COVID stuff, honestly, I can only talk for myself, but it just seemed like, yeah, I would love to do that, and I would love to be with Kevin and Jay and just see what this is like again. And I think all of us in this kind of period of time have just really, found some a little bit more introspective and what's important to you in life, and it's like, man, we might never get asked again. This may be Furnace Fest might be like, okay, forget those guys. And so we're like, yeah, let's do it and see if grease the machine to try to get it back in working order. And just the fact that people are interested at all is an honor. So we just kind of are seeing how it goes and just have some fun with it.
Have you guys stayed in contact this whole time, or is it just kind of just chat, text each other here and there?
Yeah, no, we have. Every once in a while we have you'll have friends that come in town. We have our friend Vic, who helped the band forever over with Revelation. And anytime she would come in town, she would, it would bring all of us together, whether, we go out to dinner or, do something like that. But it's not a daily occurrence for sure. And now Kevin lives out in LA. So that's really kind of changed, how much I, run into him. Jay he's got some land out in the, I'm going to get it wrong, but it's out in the rural Kentucky, we'll just say. He's out there and he does contracting work, construction work, things like that. We're here doing our thing with our kids and business, and so it hasn't been a constant, but we stayed in contact for sure.
Furnace Fest, that's been going along. That's been around for a long time, right?
Yeah, from my understanding, we were involved. I think we played twice. I could be wrong on that, but you might have to check me. I know we played it before, and it was such a cool venue and cool place, and that was right towards close to the end of when we were kind of doing things, I believe. But it's always been a really cool venue and space to hold it. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No. I thought it was new. I thought it was a brand new, because I saw the lineup last year and I was like, oh, this seems like a cool new thing. And then it's
right.
It's like this has been around for I think like a couple. I think like the early 2000s. I think. I mean, I can easily Google this right now, but I was surprised by that because I had not heard of it.
Yeah, when we played, it was headliners like I believe like Andrew WK and Cave In and bands like that. But I remember seeing Me Without You there. It was the first time I'd ever seen them. They were throwing out, flowers out into the crowd that they had, and I think they covered the whole stage with sod, if I'm correct. Which was awesome. So they're like all bare feet and playing, and afterwards I was like, what's up with this? And they would dumpster dive, I guess, florists before that's how they. Because I'm like, how do you afford to do this?
Wow.
We just go get free flowers and throw them to our crowd. I'm like, that's amazing.
That's genius. It's like Less Than Jake. They used to go into, I forget what Chris said, some dollar stores or something like that and just buy a shit ton of stuffed animals. But
right.
I think they would like go up to the front desk and be like, we'll give you like $10 or something like that. And they're like, yeah, whatever. And then they would just throw them all in the crowd. That's fucking genius. Yeah, Me Without You, and we're gonna talk about you guys in a second, but like they did that 1979 song.
I don't know. And I didn't totally keep. It was their live presence that really got me. So I didn't listen to them a lot. I just remember them playing that show in particular. I think they're a great band.
Yeah, January 1979. That is them. I just found out about. I've heard of them from years, and I just listened to them like a year or so ago because I never really gave them a chance because I was really not about. There were certain bands from the early 2000s. I was like, these like something about their name of the band. I was just like, eh. But then I heard that song. I was like, fuck, this song rips.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I've done the same thing, especially now. There's so many podcasts where you can kind of delve back and interview the people, and you're like, oh, this sounds more interesting than I thought.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's cool because it personalizes it, you know. So let's go back because I know you have like probably like just like a hard stop at 2.
Cool. And I can always, if we need to come back, I have more time. It's just I'm going to getting one kid and then getting another kid and kind of doing that kind of thing. So
yeah, totally. No, I totally understand. That's where you really have to have a hard stop because you don't want them sitting there at wherever they're at, just being like, okay, well, Dad hates me now.
That's right. He'll just get in somebody else's car.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I still to this day remember when my parents like left me hanging for hours, so it never goes away. So let's like start off where so you guys came up in the Louisville scene. We'll start with like how the band came together, and then we'll kind of live in that era for a while.
Yeah. My first band was a band called Falling Forward. That's how I got into the scene through just the Louisville had a really great underground hardcore punk rock, whatever you want to call it, scene, almost to the point of a detriment because like you would get into the Louisville local scene and you really would have no reason to go beyond that. So it took me a while to get into some of the early hardcore bands that everyone's heroes, because we had our local hardcore scene, which was bands like Endpoint, King Horse, Undermine.
Was it Ink and Dagger? Was Ink and Dagger part of the scene?
Ink and Dagger was Philadelphia.
Oh, wow. I'm way off. All right.
Yeah, but it has Louisville ties because they were on Initial Records that moved from Detroit to Louisville and continued the label here until its end. So Detroit has a big connection for the Louisville scene as well because of Initial Records and everything they did up there. And they would bring bands like Falling Forward and Guilt and Endpoint, and they would bring all the Louisville bands up into Detroit, and that's how we would connect with people. And then ultimately that's, Jay started Elliott with us, the rest of the guys that were in Falling Forward.
What kind of sound was Falling Forward? Was it hardcore?
It was that kind of, it was like post-hardcore, very dynamic, soft verses, heavy choruses, that kind of thing. A lot of clean guitar and then stomp box, like if that gives you any idea. But in that world of definitely bands like Endpoint, Split Lip. I'm trying to think of the bands that would influence that sound in a huge way that we were kind of following.
So when the band ends, you go into Elliott, and you guys are way calmer sound. You guys are purely just like I wouldn't say soft. That sounds like it's like watering it down. But it's very emo. It's very slow. It's very singing. There's melody, vocals.
It's more mid-tempo.
Yeah.
Sure. And really, like if you listen to U.S. songs, so we started. Our first 7-inch was on Initial, if I get that right, and that is with myself, Jonathan Mobley, and Ben Lord from Falling Forward, and Jay, who joined the band. That was all at the very beginning of Elliott. So we're on that first 7-inch. And then after that 7-inch, Ben goes away to college, and that's when Kevin joins the band. And then Kevin and I continued doing the band from that point on till the very end. And then we had various members leave at certain points and whatnot. But the sound was really, it was like I didn't want to be caught in a certain genre or a certain sound, and that's why U.S. songs probably, there's like an instrumental on that record. I think I had like if you find old videos, I had like this wannabe kind of Farfisa organ that I'm playing on stage, you know, but like can't play the organ. So it's just like one or two like notes I'm playing, you know, chasing like some kind of Delta 72, you know, that song's like all over the place, somewhere between hardcore and this band Five Style from Chicago. That's like in my head what I want it to be, but in no way does it sound anything like that band.
So did you find, I'm sorry, I'm totally like cutting you off because I really
No,
let you
no.
talk long because there's just so much I want to cram in between this like smart time. I mean, but like your sound go from like a harder sound to like a softer sound. Do you feel like there's certain things like even now like I play music and 20 years later I still lead with that same internal sound that I have, which is kind of moody but like faster. But there's this moodiness in me that I can't really mold myself to be a different sound. For you, did you have the sound that Elliott has? Was that something that is just naturally comes out of you that you didn't have to like create and say like let me make something that doesn't feel right?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of just the first nature of actually trying to be a songwriter, because in Falling Forward I was just the singer and I just learning how to play guitar even when Elliott started. And it was really just a point of I just didn't want to rely on someone else all the time to make sure that a band could happen or a song could happen.
Wait, why? Just because?
Well, just, you know, it's like you get a guitar player and then the guitar player quits and then you're like, oh, well, he was the main person of this band, you know? And so it was just like, well, I got to learn how to play guitar. And that kind of started it. But yeah, no, I definitely feel you on that. Like you have this internal way that you either play or you think about music or you know what you're trying to convey, and that for me just kind of always stays there. And I kind of always have, like, even when I'm trying to listen to new bands and new music, I always fall back on a certain genre of things that are always going to kind of be there. And then I think for my case, then it's always make sure you've got people around you that elevate you, that are anyone that I've play with or 10 times a musician that I could ever be. So that's always been my thing, is to surround yourself with people better than you are.
Oh, totally. Yeah, if you can be the core of it and then have other people build on it. I mean, it's like how a good business is run, you know? It's like the CEO can only do so much. They need the people to surround them to kick ass.
Yeah, and usually they're not the most talented ones. They might have the idea, or they might have the ambition, or they might, you know, they have something, but then they bring in everybody to you know, do the heavy lifting.
You're really keeping with this emo thing of being down on yourself, man.
It's not a false humble, I promise. I really not that. It's going to take a lot to get these songs together, but I'm going to do my best.
So when you guys because Initial Records was established by that point. So like how long were you guys a band before you got on that label?
So Falling Forward was already on Initial. So and so we were kind of one of their first bigger things that kind of took off. I mean, they had the bands in Detroit, something off the top of my head, you know, This World Rejected, I think was one of them. They had Roosevelt's Inaugural Parade, which was some of the guys that end up being in Suicide Machines.
Oh, wow. Boys That's Fire. You know, I have Discogs open, so I'm cheating.
Yeah. Boys That's Fire. Yeah. And that was probably all around the same time with Falling Forward. But yeah, so they were great. You know, Andy was great. That was a great label. And then they moved to Louisville, and so we just kind of continued that, doing that first 7-inch with them.
And then that led to you guys being on Revelation for U.S. Songs.
Yeah, we were out in L.A. recording the rest of U.S. Songs. We did half of it in Memphis, and then we did half of it in L.A. And while we were out there, we had arranged a show, and luckily Jordan came out and saw us, and so that's how we kind of put all that together.
Was that something that like you guys really, because Revelation at this time is like it's a really known label, and they had, they probably had so many fucking bands on there too. So there was definitely these labels that were in your face back then of if you were striving to be on a bigger label locally, like in the underground scene, punk scene, emo scene, like they would be a part of that list. So like when you guys are out there, was that something that you had planned and kind of said, oh, or is it something you kind of just tripped over and it just happened to work out?
It kind of just happened to work out. If my memory serves me correctly, we were working with a guy named Ron Moss, and he was like, there's all these labels out here. Who do you like? I was like, oh, we like Crank, we like Rev, but that, those were kind of some of the labels that were out there. We had talked at one point with some other small label, Jade Tree and things like that. But it was, at that point, Revelation was, Texas had just come out, and they were friends from back in Louisville. Garrett had lived there for a second. Norm would always travel through with the bands, Shelter and things like that, bands that he would travel through with. So we're like, oh, they thought that was a good idea, and then I was always a huge fan of Sincefield. So, when we had that opportunity, it was like, yeah, this is great, because Louisville always had a more indie rock connection, the more indie labels, but we don't fit in that category, straight off, like Touch and Go or, Drag City and stuff like that, which, a lot of bands here, went that, we're in that scene.
I feel like bands on Revelation, they either stood out completely on their own or they got kind of swallowed up in the mix. How do you feel that you stood out in that scenario?
I think it was a fairly good mix. I mean, we were there right at a pretty good time, because Texas was already moving on, and then ended up sadly, breaking up. But, for us, the way we saw it was they had some of their hardcore bands, but for that moment, we were really the only thing they were kind of focusing on. So it was, it was a good time. And they did a great job with, trying to get it out. I think with us, it was just a little harder because we weren't exactly the same as you said, Les and Jake. Like we toured with for a few weeks, I think, with Les and Jake. Like never really, like we would, I think we did the Les and Jake all tour, and then we not totally the right fit. Our first tour on that U.S. song was with Chamberlain, which was great, but it was supposed to be a Hot Water Music tour, but it was one of the moments that they broke up, at a time. So the tour was completely booked, and I was like, it was our first time working with Eva, and I was like, well, I understand. Hope she was their booking agent. I was like, maybe you'll do us, you'll have us on another tour or something. She was like, no, we're still going to do this tour, but I'm going to get somebody else.
Oh, shit.
So I was like, okay, we haven't toured yet. But.
Oh, wow. The Chamberlain thing makes sense to me. Like that, you guys in Hot Water Music, that totally makes sense as a bill where it meshes together. Less Than Jake is so far, opposite from that.
Yeah, I'm sure the kids are just like, what the hell are these guys doing? But I believe that was in the U.S. song stage, so it was a little more aggressive, but it's still not Less Than Jake. Less Than Jake, Less Than Jake's fun. And,
what was the order of that? Like, were you guys headlining or were they headlining?
Oh, no. They were headlining. We were opening for sure, and it just depended on, if we were, where we were playing in the bill. Because sometimes it would be all headlining, and then some of them was just with Les and Jake. But no, they were huge. They are huge. They always.
Yeah, I just saw them recently.
Oh, did you? They were the first band I saw that had like 15 different T-shirt designs, on tour.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
This is how you do it.
So how does this lead? So you guys are, you put out U.S. songs. You guys are touring. You're starting to get, recognition. You're on Revelation, and then it's like I think because I'm just kind of going off of Spotify and Discog. So it's like saying 2000s when False Cathedrals. That's really hard to say. False Cathedrals comes out, and that seems to be like you guys, because that just hit 20 years or 22 years actually, because it's 22, but that seemed to be the album that really like put you guys out there, like to be more known, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's definitely a lot of people's favorite, but what's interesting and what's kind of strange and sad and good and, however you want to look at it, is that that record was recorded, and then soon after, Jay and Jonathan, they left the band completely separately and not knowing each other were doing it. So I got the call from Jay, and Jay was like, he wanted the band to slow down, take a breath before the next tour, and the records just come out, and I was like, the tour's booked, we got to do this. We have European dates and U.S. dates, and he's like, well, I got to take a break. I go to call Jonathan and tell him that Jay just left, and Jonathan's like, oh, I need to tell you something. so he hadn't gotten around to telling me, because he had just found out he was having his second child, I'm sorry. So it was just getting too hard for him to tour. And they had both just gotten off a tour with By the Grace of God, which was another hardcore band here in Louisville. So I was like, you guys just got to go to Europe, it's my time. I want to go. I'm not going to cancel Europe. So what we did, a lot of what was recorded on False Cathedrals never was played out live from that point, because once we got a new guitar player and a new bassist, we were like, we're going to tour for the next 2 years. We want you all to enjoy yourselves and not play someone else's music. So let's bring your ideas in. So we kind of remixed the songs with them to go on tour. So then we went on tour, and then you've got a record that sounds nothing like the record that people got at home and they're into, right?
Oh, wow. So the record's recorded, you guys put it out, you got 2 new members, and then the 2 new members completely just redid the parts of the instruments they were playing differently?
To a degree, yeah. So the basic, but the bass probably stayed fairly close unless we did some kind of arrangement change. But the guitar's definitely different, and some of the moods of them. So if you listen to False Cathedrals and then you listen to Photo Recording, so that's the only reason we did that record, was to kind of show what the songs sounded like as we played live, just to kind of capture that for people, just for history's sake. So that record is basically like a live record. We just went into the studio and recorded everything. I mean, I'm sure there were some overdubs and things, but it was more of a one take kind of situation. So if you listen to, the difference between Drive On To Me and False Cathedrals and Drive On To Me and Photo Recording, they sound, vastly different.
So when you guys do the reunion, are you going to do False Cathedrals as is?
As it's recorded, yes.
I think some people might have been thinking that as they heard you say this. They're
Right.
like, wait a minute, what?
So yes, they're going to get the J version. That's what it boils down to.
That's so random that you would do that. I've never heard of somebody doing that.
Yeah, it was not advantageous. It was somewhat detrimental. We lost some people because, they had to be definitely got more washy. The Benny's guitars sound is a lot more effects and a lot more, maybe ethereal, but it definitely had a different presence. And that one that I like, just completely different than what the actual record sounds like. And it's not worlds apart, but it's different.
So you guys didn't even get a chance to record False Cathedrals with the original lineup that recorded it?
It was recorded. So it was recorded and out. We just didn't get to tour with that lineup. Yes. You
get on the road and you're pushing this record, and there's little subtle differences in the sound that you're presenting to people, and you're getting feedback from them. Then they're like, wait. So were people coming up to you with the shows saying hey, this sounds different, or how did you hear that feedback?
Well, in that day it was fanzines, and it was just creeping up on, maybe, there would be forum talk and stuff like that. So, you would get a vibe, but it wasn't all negative, and that some people really, dug what we were doing. And ultimately what we were doing was hey, here's a hint of where the next record's most likely going to be going towards, because this is, hopefully who we're writing it with. But it's different, and it's something that we're excited to kind of go back and to explore. And some songs from that record never got played at all from that point on.
Why?
Just because we couldn't figure out how to change them, or they just didn't really fit with the set. We did a lot of background tracks, so strings and things like that. And back then, it wasn't like it is now with triggers that you could do, or digitally, or have your computer up. So everything was to ADAT. So we were all the backgrounds had to be there. We had to decide, what songs we're playing when we go on this tour, because once you're locked in, basically, which is, can be a good thing, but it also can be monotonous if you're on a 3-month tour or something like that.
So when you got the new guys and you said we're going to go out for 2 years, did you hold true to that?
A lot. I mean, we did a lot of touring. I don't know if and then towards the end of when we were saying that, we were doing a tour, and it was not really a good fit, and we pulled out. It was a tour with the band, the Toadies. I don't know if you remember them.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were playing with them, and we loved it. But there was another band on the tour, and I'm not naming names, but it basically, they wanted to change the lineup. It was before, because it was us opening up for the Toadies. There was another band than us. They had decided, their management, or the band, I'm not sure, decided they wanted to change that up, but no one would talk to us personally. It was like, the phone call to Eva, then Eva the phone call to me, and then me talk to Eva, and Eva back to their management. I was just like, yeah, just tell them we'll leave. And I just waved at the guy while he was on the phone with Eva instead of talking to me, And I was just like, waved at him, and I was like, see ya. Well, he turned around and left.
Oh, shit.
And so that wasn't the smartest thing to do once you have, a trailer full of merch and your whole itinerary set up for, the next, month or whatever the tour was.
If you had a chance to go back and do it,
I'd probably
with the mindset, would you just sucked it up?
Maybe. I mean, it definitely put us in a financial bind, and because then we just went in straight into recording. So that was my thinking. I was like, let's just leave. We'll go record, and we'll get this next record out.
Oh man.
And so, but it wasn't. It just crunched us a little bit on the business side of things, which it just sucks when that's what you have to think about. But that's sometimes what you have to think about. It's a lesson.
How did you guys because I mentioned I was a band. We never had a booking agent, but I actually talked to Yvonne from Feta. I interviewed her, and she talked about booking and then managing and all that, and what a pain in the so I got to see the perspectives, the side of a booking agent, and then right. I know what it's like to be in a band. I never got to, and then I talked to Matt from Emmanuel who worked with Yvonne, so I got this cool not double-sided, but nothing negative, sure. But the both sides. Do you find it was better to have someone there doing that, because when you're playing this game of telephone with someone like that, did you find you had to do that all the time and you liked it, or was that kind of a why don't I just go fucking talk to the band?
Right. Well, that definitely, that's, even though because Eva started Feta, and she started with Hot Water, and then with us, and then and Chamberlain, and then just kept working up the bands that she would work with. So I think she just is celebrating now the 26th year or something like that, which is amazing. We're still playing basement shows, and that's what we want. We just wanted to be able to talk to the band came to us like, hey, you guys go on, you play, you don't speak at all. It's just music straight through. That's your thing, but the other band riles the crowd up a little bit. Can you change your spot on the set at least for a few days, see what it feels like? It would have been absolutely, no worries. But when it's just the faceless road manager guy or whatever, and they won't talk to you, then it's just yeah, I don't want to be involved in this. That stuff I never really, I didn't like, or never wanted to kind of be a part of. I wanted to, because so your band, you would, booking your own. I booked a few tours. That is one of the hardest things to do.
Especially at a time where there was no the shit we have now, the phone.
Exactly. Yeah, when it's not texting or email, or when it was just the phone, and it was and long distance, and you had to pay it, or you had to have a dialer, or whatever to get things done. It was. I mean, I think I still have a book of the numbers that I have. Man, that was difficult. So once someone's like, "Hey, I'll do that for you," you're like, "Yes, please."
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah, that's gotta be nice, especially when because if you are on the road, they're in the background booking the next one, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if that's what you're doing, or you're just constantly, and then still we would, even with, where we were doing stuff with Eva, that's the other thing. A lot of booking agents haven't gone on the road with the band or understand that, Salt Lake City, Utah is not next to Seattle.
Yeah.
It's, it seems like it seems all West Coast, right? But, that's a long drive, but we had done that. We've done that drive a couple times.
Oh God.
Where it's just like, and we'd have to be like, we'd get this to Salt Lake and be like, we need to open up the show. I know we're headlining, but we need to open up because we're not going to make it to the next show in time because we need to like play and drive immediately.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's some of it was crazy.
What was like the response to you guys on the road at this point? So it's so hard to say this. False Cathedrals, Jesus Christ. So that's out. You guys are touring on it, and that album is, like you said, that's one of the more popular ones, and this is the infancy of that happening. Did you see that a lot of the shows were getting bigger or better?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it was. It's word of mouth, and back then it's just like you're just building and building on what you've done the last time. So maybe it's, the first time you go through a town, it's 20 kids, and the next time it's 40, and then all of a sudden, if you hooked up with the right local band the last time, then this time it's, 200, so it just builds and builds. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that story, all the time. But yeah, there's definitely you could feel something happening, and it felt good. But you've always got, you're always looking to see where your fellow bands are, and you're like, we just played a show and 200 people come out. Like, yeah, but there's the Get Up Kids, and there's 500 people at their show. It's like, okay, where are we supposed to be? And you don't want to. You're not in a competition, but you're like, and we just were not a great band to like hang out or bro down with. Like we just were, I wasn't good at that. I was, we would like play the show, and then I'd want to be at the next show and waiting in the parking lot for like 3 hours to make sure we were there to sound check. Like I wasn't living in the moment as much as I should have been. I should have been enjoying myself a lot more instead of just being like, okay, we got to do this show. We got to get the next one.
Was that because you were more of like a perfectionist live, or because you weren't really a fan? Are you more of an introvert?
Probably a little both. Like I would want to make sure we, if we were supposed to be there for sound check, I wanted to be there, and not be the band that just kind of like, rolls in right when they're supposed to play. But if I would have hung out and partied, just enjoyed myself and my surroundings and everything a little bit more, I think, you get something out of that. I would definitely not be as stressed if I did these days. I'll say that, and then I'm just going to be stressed.
Oh, we'll see. When you're playing Furnace Fest and shows.
Right. I'll still be freaked out.
Oh yeah, I mean, what with Furnace Fest? I mean, you're gonna be in front of tens of like, how big is that show? It's huge.
It'll probably be much bigger than I want to think.
It's like a sea of people, man. That's awesome.
My son last night was talking to somebody, and so both of my sons play in a percussion group, and it's like they do covers and they do songs, and Jimmy Page has sent them like money for they've done like a Led Zeppelin song and or a Beatles song or they did an Ozzy Osbourne song, but it's like it's this big group Louisville tradition. There's like 200 kids in it, and they play these songs on marimbas and anything. But anyway, we just found out yesterday they're going to open for My Morning Jacket, and so they were like, "Are you nervous?" He's like, "It doesn't matter. It's like the lights are in your eyes. You don't see anybody anyway." he's like, I don't know if there's two people or, a million. I was like, man, I gotta think like that.
I think in Furnace Fest though it's like daytime, so you can see everybody.
Oh, geez. I'll just have my own light just blinding me in the eye.
Like, everyone's like, why does Chris have a light in front of his face? That's fucking weird. It's daytime.
Yeah, that guy's really pretentious. He's got to have a spotlight on him in the daytime.
Classic Elliott. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right.
So anyone listening, we took a break because Chris had to go do some family stuff the last time. So we're starting up again. So might be a couple things that we both forgot that we talked about, but I skimmed it a little bit. And what I heard was you guys touring with Less Than Jake, starting to work with Eva, with Theta, and then we talked about False Cathedrals. I said it. False Cathedrals coming out. This is kind of where we're at right now. So the album just came out. You guys are touring, and you're basically saying that your stage show, you're a little shy, and then you also didn't really stick around to talk to fans and things like that.
Yeah. I don't even know if it was shy. We just didn't always fully connect. And we loved all those bands, and those bands, we'd come through, their town or vice versa. Everyone's trying to help each other out. But it just didn't feel like we ever fully found that kind of connection, with maybe, Hot Water Music being, we love those guys, but those guys connect with everybody. They're just one of those bands that seem to have a real camaraderie, and they're also just road warriors. They're just always out.
Well, did you feel like you weren't connecting with bands or audiences?
No, I mean, I think we were. It was just different, right? And then with our audience, it was it wasn't so much that I didn't feel like we were connecting, but it was definitely kind of deers in headlight. People were either watching us and either weren't connecting, or they were watching us and just, instead of that kind of back and forth engagement. And I think here and there, and that kind of stuff happened, but it was a lot of times it just seemed like we were playing and it was just kind of to stuck eyes. But ultimately, people then would come back and be like, oh, yeah, we really enjoyed it.
I mean, it kind of goes with the sound that you guys produce, though.
I think so, yeah. It's not the sing-song back-forth kind of repetition. That repetition's not the right word, is it?
Reciprocating?
Yes, you're sing and then I'm trying to think of the
there's certain lines in a song or choruses where people are throwing their fingers up back at you and
exactly
back.
You
didn't have that.
My brain, sorry, I'm semi preoccupied. Someone was pulling out a reflector for a shoot, so I was making sure they were
shiny things.
Yeah, shiny things, exactly. But a call and repeat kind of thing is what I'm trying to get at. Da 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 da, and then and then the crowd can come right back at you. That kind of stuff. That wasn't exactly the kind of music that we were doing. So it's just a little different.
Have you guys? I think we had talked about this last time. I forget because it was a couple weeks ago. Did you say that you have gotten to? Well, you guys were reunited 2 years ago, correct? Or when was it? Like Brooklyn Vegan, when they did a write-up on you for the 20th anniversary of the album or 25th anniversary of the album?
Yeah, maybe 20th, but yeah.
20th.
No, there was no reunion or anything. This is the first time we've contemplated actually playing. I think there were some, yeah. So I think there were some write-ups just as far as they do the top 10 emo albums of 2000, whatever year the record came up or whatever. There were some things like that. But yeah, no, this is the first time that we've kind of considered doing this.
So what do you expect, not expecting, but what would you consider a success for you? Talking about how the audience wouldn't yell the lyrics back. Now it's been 20 years and the style doesn't really call for it, but sometimes it can happen. So you're going to be playing this big festival. What to you would seem like, I don't know if success is the right word, but I'm just going to use it.
Yeah, well, what I think just would be enduring is kind of thinking of this just kind of as somewhat of a celebration and just going out and having everybody there that wants to be there, and I'm sure that there's going to be tons of people that are just there. That's just the how festivals go. But no, I just think as long as we're there, we're playing these songs and we're together and having fun, I think that would be amazing.
There's a video online of Knapsack when they reunited years ago. I don't know if it's a couple years ago, whenever. Now it's like time's going so fast. It could have been like 6 years ago. It was like yesterday. But they're playing Fest and they're the first song and Sergi's all the way in the right, and this person just runs through and kind of jumps into the crowd like crowd surfing. And his facial expression is like, what the fuck? And I think he gets on the mic and he goes, it's like, that's the first time in the history of this band that shit's ever happened.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's I know that we even got to play with Knapsack once or twice. The shows were great, and and ultimately that's the kind of show I always want to play or be at, is a Fireside Bowl or a Twilligans.
Where's Twilligans?
There's Twilligans was like the not big. It was the local club in Louisville for kind of my beginning years of just like, that's where I saw Fugazi for the first time, and that's where a lot of like the just the local shows, Endpoint, King Horse. It was just like just the perfect venue, perfect stage. At least in my nostalgia. Maybe I wouldn't think that now, but a 200, 300 cap, everybody squeezed in there kind of venue. Not too different than like a Maxwell's in New Jersey or.
That was the first thing I thought of because I'm from Jersey, and when you said that, I just went right. I was like, oh, it sounds like Maxwell's.
Yeah, no, it's very similar, and I'm just coming to a lot of the history and whatnot of that area. And there was a Louisville band that moved to the New York area, and I think they maybe they lived maybe close to Maxwell's at one point. It was the Babylon Dance Band. And this is like before my time. This is like in the early 80s, more like Husker Du type world. But I think they were kind of around that area.
Maxwell's kind of, I think close enough. My alarm's going off to tell me we're going to start talking again. Maxwell's, those small little clubs like that, like Maxwell's and the one you're talking about. And then we played at Sudsy Malone's. Did you guys ever play there?
I didn't, but I've been to many shows there. Yeah.
It's like the same kind of vibe where just this weird little character club, but a lot of bands would have played there, and I think now it's probably gone.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard much. Probably. I mean, it was that was like the laundromat / club.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. And we have a place like that now called Z Bar here in Louisville. It's cool, and they're also it looks like they're going to build a new bar across the street that's going to be a laundromat / pinball arcade.
Oh, interesting.
Which could be awesome.
Did you guys ever play at, there was an arcade club? I talked about this with Matt from Emmanuel. We've played there a few times, and he said in his interview, but I had forgot the name of it already.
Is it a Pandemonium?
Yeah. Did you guys play there?
We didn't. I don't think we ever did. I went to shows there. That was kind of towards the end of Elliott, or at least at a point where we weren't playing. We had one of our members. He did not like to play in Louisville.
Why?
Unless it was, I think it was just, he just didn't like. He worked at the record store, and I think he liked to kind of keep his anonymity. And so if he was going to play, he played like, it was always like Crazy Fest or something where nobody knew it was him on stage, or at least that was his thoughts, I think. It's like, it wasn't fully our scene. It was, there was younger kids, and it was, it's punk rock and hardcore, whatever it is. It's a young person's, it should be a young person's kind of medium, and even when I'm talking, we were in our late 20s, but like our mid 20s, so it's not like we were old men.
You're right. There was definitely a young crowd, but there was something about being 24
and I've talked about this a lot of times, is that you just felt fucking old. Even though now I look back, I'm like, you're so young. I'm like, you're starting your life up. It's so funny from my perspective of where I'm at 42, going on 43. But then you're like, I just see darkness ahead. It's just working a job and sucking. Life's gonna suck. Like, no, man, there's so much more you can do.
Exactly. And I think, too, you want that scene to have its kind of it kind of clicks over. Every couple of years, it's like it refreshes, and you're welcome to stay in and be a part of it. It's just you can't. You shouldn't really take control of it. You know what I'm saying? Or
That's
you shouldn't.
A great way to say that.
Because it needs to have that new blood and needs to refresh, and you're always welcome to be part of it, or maybe you help with the club, or maybe you own the club, but you let the young kids book the club. I don't know.
You're welcome to stay. I love the way you said that. That's so funny. It's so true. Like, you're like, yeah, you can hang around, but it's not like it's not your thing, but you're kind of like the elders at that point, like
right.
Showing them how to do things, but they're also respecting you. I think like in that kind of like that scene, like that pandemonium place was a younger crowd, but I felt like you guys were the band at the time. I mean, how old were you in 2000?
Oh, let's see. So it's 27. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that is a giant gap, because that I think I was, the fuck was I, 20, 21 or something like that, and 22, yeah, 21 in that pandemonium. So I feel like that crowd there, the young crowd, is where they're listening to the fast punk rock and the poppy shit, but then a band like yours would be a part of their CD collection where they would want to get a little bit more, what's the word? They're kind of opening up their ears a little bit more to
Sure.
Expanding their musical taste, and you guys were definitely right in there where you would be next to, you'd be done listening to Less Than Jake, and then you'd hear Snapcase, and then you put on Elliott. Like, that whole mix there would work in your car.
Exactly. And I don't know if other scenes were like this, but Louisville kind of had where the hardcore kids and punk kids would all go to the indie shows, right?
Yes.
But the indie kids very rarely went to the hardcore or punk shows anymore, unless it was like the old stuff. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally.
So like,
yeah.
So, and so that, and we were part of that kind of divide, but not on the indie side. We were more still on the hardcore, maybe because of because of Revelation or whatnot. But, we'd have friends and bands that we love, that are on Touch and Go or Drag City or, whoever. And it was kind of like, oh yeah, you come to our shows, you'll never see me at one of yours.
Yeah, that's totally true.
It's like, oh, okay, well, and that's not everybody. That's, that's,
it was a handful. It was a decent handful of people where,
and it usually wasn't the bands. It was usually just their crowd. Oh, I'll go to these shows.
Did you guys like have an understanding? Because I know because Brooklyn Vegan's kind of like the newer, it's like one of those websites that keeps you informed, and they're pretty popular. So, it's like when something happens, they announce it, you're like, oh, there's a lot of eyes must be checking this article out right now. So then a couple years ago, they announced that it was the 20th year anniversary of False Cathedrals. And so to see that now, obviously this held a place in a lot of people's CD collection, their hearts, whatever, like they remember that album. At the time, did you feel like putting that out, did you know that was a thing? Like it was like you were a part of something?
Like at the current time?
Like the album itself, did you realize what you had created?
No, you all you do is you focus on what you're doing. I mean, it felt special to us, but you never know if anything's going to have any kind of lasting effect. You can just hope it does, and that it's, if you can connect with somebody, or if it really feels like you've put everything into it. We were just at a very, I think, lucky time, and we had opportunities, and we made opportunities that allow that to be what it was. To me, it's hard to think for that record to mean as much as like Novelty by Jawbox or the first Quicksand album, and certain albums that just hold a place. If there are people that record is like that for, like it's insane. Yeah, and you'd never be able to, like we wrote it, we'd be like, this is gonna be someone's favorite record. Like, yeah, like no, you don't think like that.
But like after the fact though, when it's in your possession and you're listening to it, like when you'd show up to a show, were you kind of like, did you feel that foundation of, we feel confident that we're going to show up and we get to play these songs, so even if you're not really paying attention, like we know we're bringing something to the table right now?
Yeah, I think there was definitely like we were dedicated. There was no, it wasn't like, we're doing this and then we got to do college for 6 months and then we'll go back on the road in the summer. I mean, it was our full-time life. It wasn't like we all lived together. The majority of us lived together. We had a warehouse. We had, Kevin's recording studio was there. It was 24/7. That's what we were doing. When we did go out and we did play, we were leaving it all out there. It didn't matter if it was, we played tons of shows to 3 people, and we played some really great shows to hundreds. So I feel like we knew that we were doing something. I don't think not like, oh, this is going to be the next big thing or anything like that. But, something that you were proud of at the end of the day, for sure.
Do you think, have you listened, I mean, obviously you listened to it recently because you guys got to practice it.
Oh, yeah. Got to relearn it all.
Do you think as an album, it still holds up?
That's hard. I mean, there's definitely, I guess the way that I can see that or see answering that is, while yes, there is maybe some nostalgia to it still for me, it's not like I'm not going to have to be playing a part. I can still walk into these songs and still feel something that I'm connected to, and not something where it would be harder for me to go into like my first band's material. That would be much more me reaching into a different lifetime.
Like the majority of your songs, what are they about?
Well, I would say most of the Elliott stuff, a lot of it is just, grasping with, coming to terms with becoming an adult, with, changing. A lot of it has to do with finding yourself, whether that be with relationships with other people or I use a lot of religious kind of overtones and icons and touchstones, but not always in a positive sense. I think a lot of it is just me dealing with a lot of Catholic guilt and breaking away from that kind of world, growing up in that kind of society and learning all the new things, how to treat people and how to not to be hypocritical. And, maybe I had some bad taste in my mouth, so to speak, of that whole growing up in that world. Yeah.
Do you look at your life now and then look at that moment of that album and the lyrics and stuff and see it as a turning point, or like kind of a crossroads where what you said or thought then is representative of the path took you to where you're at now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was able to see those things grow and come out on the other side, where I do believe that there's always going to be things to learn, and you don't always know the right answer, but it doesn't mean you can't grow and figure that out.
It's interesting with albums or books or things like that people create, where it's at that point they're thinking something, so there's so much, like, I don't say power behind it, but it's so relevant to them that when they express it, it's right there as a little time capsule. And then you could either look back at some bands, you could look back and they were just writing about girls and they're just looking at the lyrics going, oh God, that's just so bad. But
well, there's a lot of that too.
Yeah. I mean, I think everyone has that in their own stuff, where you might have fans that love a line or a song that you had and you're like, oh, this makes me cringe.
Yeah. There's not a ton of that. And there's some still stuff that I'll listen to and it'll either hit me in a whole new way or it'll hit me as oh, that's what I was trying to get at. And because I'm older, I kind of see it, in a new light.
So we had mentioned earlier that the two guys had quit, and you got the two new guys. You guys completely revamped your sound, which takes away from the actual album, so it sounds fucking different. So basically, like right then, and then you're on the road. So like, at what point were you? I don't want to say like what leads up to stopping, because I mean I'm on Wikipedia, which who knows how much of this shit is real, but you've got False Cathedrals, and then you have
Hmm.
Song in the Air,
Right.
which is, and then you have photo recording.
Yeah. So Song in the Air is initially supposed to be just like an EP, and then to fulfill the contracts with Revelation, we had to turn it into a full length. And so, basically that took like, oh yeah, we've got 4 or 5 songs easy. Well, now we gotta write new material and get a whole new thing, and so spent a lot of time in the studio, and the fact that it was the first time that there was no deadline. There was no, when we did U.S. Songs or False Cathedrals, it's like, okay, you've got the studio for a week. Oh, you got it maybe for 2 weeks. That would be like the most ever. Now since Kevin had started his own studio, we had kind of full access all night long. So it just, so it's kind of I feel like that story is told with tons of different bands. It's just, we just started going over the music, going over stuff so much that you ultimately kind of damage it in some ways. But on the other hand, I love that record. But I'm able to, or I was at that point, I was a lot more like pulled off from the actual, some of the writing process, and more, I was able just to concentrate on whether it be the lyrics or it wasn't full songwriting.
Well, like, but where were you guys in your lives at that point? Because if you have the two new guys who you're doing that because you wanted to keep touring, and then you're writing this record. So it sounds like you're kind of in this limbo where almost like the wind gets taken out of your sails, and you're really trying to get that back to that momentum and saying like, how do we get back to wanting to do this again? And sometimes you just can't get it.
Yeah, and I think too, it was, Elliott's always been about putting unique individuals together, and then whatever would come out. But we were never like a band of like all 4 of us all really loving like one band. It was never a band that was like, oh yeah, everybody's into Oasis, or everybody's into, Radiohead, or this or that. It was always like, oh, like me and Kevin really like Radiohead, and Benny's always like, oh no, all I'm listening to this month is Iggy Pop.
I think that it helps the dynamic if you're not all liking the same thing, because there's little things you pull as a musician from bands you're listening to.
Exactly.
Where you're like, how do I make this mine? And you introduce that, and someone's like, where'd you get that from? And they're like, this. And you're like, wow, that makes no sense. But for some reason, what we did with it like meshes really well with what we're trying to do. So this is a super random question, but I had to ask it because I remembered this. There's always these little memories, and there's nothing exciting about this at all. It's just it's a random thought.
Sure.
There's a band from New Jersey called Humble Beginnings, and I remember they got back from a tour one time, and they played State Theater in Florida. I think it was Tampa.
Okay.
And they played with you guys. And so Rob Heiner, I just texted right now, and I was like, you guys played with Elliott at State Theater, right? And he's like, that's the place in Florida. Yeah, because the only thing I remember this, and I'm really just doing this to just give Rob a shout out. But he said the sound of that place was so incredible, but that's 2 reasons he remembered it. He's like, the sound was so insane, and also we played with Elliott. This is a shot in the dark. Like, do you remember the show at all?
Well, yeah, I definitely remember State Theater. We played there a few times, so I just kind of have to dissect of like, was it this show or that show, but it was such a cool place. If I'm remembering of the same venue.
Yeah, I think it's it's a really good place to play.
For some reason, Air Type 11 is in my head at that point too. I don't know if they were on that show.
Maybe. I mean, it's like I said, It's a shot in the dark. But actually, he goes. So he said that, he goes, well, there's a funny story, and this I think would be an interesting part of this, because I think you'll laugh at this. So there's nothing bad about you guys at all. So he's like, so the bassist of Elliott played, I think, a 6-string bass, maybe 5. So I'm fact checking right now. Do you remember this at all? Did your bass player?
No, wouldn't be.
Oh.
Wait, depending on the bass player, nobody ever played a multi-string bass, but we had one bass player that played a really weird bass, so I could see that maybe being seen as something different as the norm. Like it was like a really homemade looking contraption. It wasn't really it wasn't your standard P bass or jazz or anything like that.
So that might be why this might lead into why this is kind of funny. So he's like, so Rob played bass in Humble Beginnings, and he's like, so I think, like the bass player had a 6-string bass, but I think he's remembering it just being a nice bass. So he goes, I'm playing my 79 Music Band, not a piece of crap. So we just finished sound checking, and I left my bass leaning against the amp. Sound guy was doing something else behind my amp, bumped it, my bass started to fall. Luckily, their guitar player, Jeremy Hernandez, who I've interviewed, who was in Humble, and he used to be in Bigwig and things like that. So he catches it, and Jeremy goes to the guy like, hey, man, watch out for this bass up here. You almost knocked it over. And sound guy goes, yeah, I saw it there. It's fine. Points at the bass player, points to Elliott's bassist bass on top of his amps and goes, you see that? That's a real bass. That's a fucking dangerous piece of machinery right there. So they just kept saying that shit all the time.
So it's kind of opposite though, because that bass, it did look like a dangerous thing, but it was like I need to go back and look see what it was really just this gnarly looking thing. And if at that point it was a guy named Billy that was playing bass for us.
This is like 2000, 2001, I'm guessing. That's when that happened.
Probably towards the end, yeah. So most likely that was it. But yeah, that's funny.
It's a random small story, but I think like 2 people really find that hilarious. But it just for what like how goofy that like Humble was for them to hear that. It's like those bands that just find the funniest shit out of the most obscure, but then they retell it, and it's like you're like it's so funny to them, and they just keep it as an inside joke as a band.
Oh no,
like,
absolutely, yeah.
Like so, basically, they kept that as an inside joke for their band, like the length of their band after that, where they'd be on the road and just repeat that shit all the time.
Oh, I'm glad to be a part of that.
Yeah, you're a part of the history. So you guys put out Song in the Air, and then you do photo recording. It says it's a CD/DVD box set. What was this about?
Yeah, so basically all that was at the end of Elliott. It was just to kind of capture what those songs had turned into. So it was basically we just went in to the studio and recorded the live set that we had been playing on the tour before that. So we just kind of wanted to capture what the band sounded like live. So if you wanted to hear like I was talking about the different versions of some of the songs, that's where you would hear it. You could go to photo record and go, oh, this Drive On to Me is different than this Drive On to Me, and this is what it's. So that's the only reason we really did it. So we went in, tracked everything live. I think the vocals were overdubbed, but just one take on. With like all the effects and stuff, all that was done live. It wasn't guitars weren't punched in later on or anything like that.
Well, it's a big deal though. For a big deal meaning, do you remember Incompatible? It was that Victory Records compilation.
Yeah, I think so. I worked at a record store, so I was always just picking up all the free stuff.
Well, this was like the time where technology starts to kind of expand a little bit, and then the music industry is going, oh, well, we have this ability to do this. Let's combine this into a thing. So they put out Incompatible, which had like it was like a DVR or a CD-ROM. That was it, where a band could have a video on it when you put it into your computer, and it would play, or it'd have like pictures and shit. So like you guys doing a DVD, this is the time where you're going, we can do this cool stuff. So it's kind of not forward thinking, but it's kind of an advanced error a little bit there in 2005 when this happens.
Right. Well, for really what it was is we had some great guys that just like, hey, we want to come along in this last tour and just shoot stuff and whatnot, kind of document this last tour that you're on. Obviously we're like, yeah, sure. They were taking care of everything on their dime. I mean, it's a couple cameras that just jumped in the van with us. And so that last tour, we were just kind of repaying the debt that our friends in Drum Can, they brought us to Japan. And Satoshi and Kevin and the rest of the guys, they became like super tight, close buddies. And so we brought them out on our last tour. And then I think we had some other Louisville bands, and I believe it's Your Black Star was with us on that last tour. And so we were just kind of like, okay, this is it, and this is how we're going to kind of to leave this. And then we were able to have some footage of it, and they just kind of put it all together and release it.
That's cool.
Together. Yeah. And Drum Can did a similar thing when we were over there. There's a documentary of the Japanese tour that they had put together, and I think they released it.
Who is this?
It's a Drum Can. It's a Japanese band of our friend Satoshi's band. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think it was just like a Drum Can Elliott tour, and they released that as well. It's kind of like a separate thing they would sell on at shows and whatnot.
For some reason when you said that, I thought of the band China Drum just because of that. Do you ever hear that band, China Drum?
No. Where were they from?
I forget. I think they were like a European band or something, but it's so obscure. They had one really good song. I can't fucking think of it, but I think just because it's drum. It has nothing to do with anything.
Right.
You made me.
It's just got the DR sound.
Yeah, it was a band from back then that was a huge part. Like one of their songs was a giant like time capsule for me in this moment of like reconnecting with an old girlfriend, but it's nothing to do with you guys. But I think just saying that, someone out there's gonna go, holy fuck, I haven't heard that name in so long. But when you guys are in the van at this point, and so you're like 27 at this point, or are you a little bit older?
Yeah, it's probably right around then.
So like you're in the van and you're kind of just over it like knowing it's probably your last tour, or it is your last tour?
We know it is for sure. Yeah.
Did you have more fun in the road because of that?
Yeah, well, I think it definitely appreciated everything a lot more, and I'm glad that we took that time and we just, because it wasn't like a screw you guys, I'm out of here. Like, it was a very just like, yeah, this is, like, I've got this. I didn't want to lose another relationship after, with everything that you do, putting into a band. I mean, it's so hard to establish something correctly and to.
Well, do you mean a relationship between the band, or you were dating somebody?
Yeah, no, I was dating somebody. Yeah, my wife. So I was like, I want to solidify this. I don't want to screw this up. That's
would have made for a great album.
Yeah, exactly. But that was, that's where I was at in my life, and I think other guys were at other points where they, Kevin wanted to spend a lot more time on the studio and in different types of music. I mean, he went on to do some of my favorite bands. So I'm glad that he his next projects were awesome. In my opinion.
Wait, what were those?
He did a band called Wax Fang, and where he was still drumming, and most recently he was doing Twin Limb, which is just phenomenal, where he's a guitar player in that band, but both so different but amazing. Yeah, check them out. Yeah, Wax Fang is like super theatrical sounding vocals.
Okay.
So that's the only thing to not to get over, but just to get used to.
Like Freddie Mercury theatrical, or
yeah, like
Foxy Shazam or something.
Yeah, almost something kind of like that, but even more, just really good songwriting, just like incredible songwriting. It's just, and Scott's voice is just super unique. And then the next band is two female vocalists. One plays accordion, one plays the drums, and Kevin plays all this super cool effects heavy guitar over top of it. And then I think the accordion is also like MIDI, so she it's not your normal accordion sound, but also she can just play synth stuff with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really good. Crazy good.
So when you guys finally called it quits, did Revelation know, or did you tell them after the tour?
Oh no, they knew, and at that point we were, we had fulfilled any kind of obligations, whatnot, and when we just asked, hey, do you want to put out this? We want to do this photo recording, kind of the last thing. Do you want to put that out too? Because before that, the plan was if the band had continued, the next record would have been on Arena Rock with a friend of ours, Greg's label, and they had some successes and they had put out some cool bands, so that was kind of that would have been the next thing. It's just it just all kind of fell apart there before it could actually get there.
It's like a rainy day almost, like, there's it's like that when you end the band because you're not really sure what's next and you kind of just feel stagnant and it's a little gloomy to some. Did you feel that, or were you just like, holy fuck, this is a relief?
No, I mean, well, it was somewhat bittersweet for me. I think only because I knew I could continue it. If Kevin wanted to continue it, then we could keep going on and we could find other people. But that was, at that point for me, it was just kind of like, man, let's just stop. And not, because it's going to be a whole new thing of getting new people in. And then I would never want to be a band where it was like the focus wasn't the band. Obviously, when you sing, your vocal style is going to kind of imprint on the band. There's few bands that can change singers and like just keep going, but it's also, it's a hard thing. There's also a few bands where that singer can go and start another band and be as influential. Maybe they can go do like solo stuff, but it's, that's not my thing. I definitely I have to be in a band. I couldn't go out there and do something by yourself. That takes a whole different talent level. For sure.
Yeah. So, like, do you think that the way that the whole history, and I'm going to wrap this up now or soon, but like, do you think that the path that the band took was, like, do you look back at it and think that's pretty much what we were going to do? Or do you find little areas where you're like, if we just did this here, we would have gone in this direction, which would have had just like maybe a little bit more success or a lot more success?
No, I think there's always, it's easy to kind of go back and go, and it's not, for me, it's nothing about the music. It's more of, if we wouldn't have left that tour and, been in $30,000 worth of debt.
Was it the Toadies one?
Yeah, like, that we probably would have been in a better headspace, when we were writing that next record, and then maybe it wouldn't be so tense. And there's definitely little points where it's like, should have done that a little different, but nothing that I regret on the fact of the music that came out of it. More along just like the logistics or the way that you pushed yourself or went about doing things. It was such a different time in that world and that industry, and how you got to people or how you got fans. Yeah, and that was a huge learning curve of just getting into the ideas of websites and social media and things like that. I don't think there was any social media, until that band was done. If there was, it was
MySpace.
It was boards and MySpace, stuff like that.
Do you think you guys would have, like, do you think there was someone in the band that would have utilized Instagram like a lot of bands do now, where you could do video and post and things like that? Was there someone who was kind of savvy, or like, if we gave this person the reins, they would have done well?
Yeah, no, not really. That was the thing. Like, we never even tried to do a music video because it just seemed so corny.
Oh, interesting.
Like, and even though as technology changed, we could probably have pulled something like that off pretty well, but a lot of those, we got some of the treatments of like people wanting to do videos and whatnot, and it was like, yeah, it's you guys in a old pickup truck and you're getting in the back of it. I'm like, yeah, man, that's not us. I know we're from Kentucky, but that's not us.
Yeah, that doesn't match the sound that was coming out of you guys.
Yeah, there could have been all kinds of things that you could have done or should have done, but I think even just documenting what we did and the way that we lived at that point would have been way more interesting than jumping at a truck on a country road or whatnot.
One thing I want to talk about is that, because you said you're at a photo shoot right now before we got on, and like, how soon after the band did it lead you in that direction?
Well, that's what I went to school for. I went to school for photojournalism before I left to do the band full time, and so I was hoping that would always come back, and lucky it did. I met my wife and I met each other working just at a restaurant. That's where we decided to kind of hone our skills and put towards our next thing, and so that's been what we've been doing ever since. So we just started our own photography company and been doing it for, I guess it's 16 some odd years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I'm Jesse's the big boss. I am, like, today I'm grip, so that's why I'm able to take a break and talk with you, because I'm just set up everything and she's got it under control.
That's cool. I actually just interviewed a guy who was a photographer. He did a lot of artwork and stuff back in the day, or photography for him, sorry. And they're called Day 19. Do you ever hear of them? Day 19?
Yeah, that sounds super familiar.
Jeremy and Claire Weiss.
Okay.
I don't know.
Oh, and that's their photography.
Yeah, like they've been doing that as a couple forever. So it just seemed like it was like, oh, that's cool. Another couple that I've interviewed working together.
Yeah, it's great. I think we've always worked together, so it was an easy transition. But it is I'm sure he could attest to if you can be with someone 24 hours a day, then you've got something.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Something good.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely you need to have the connection for that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Where is he based out of? Because the name's super familiar.
They're in Jersey, but they used to live out in California. I think when they met, they were in California. This is the time when Rama, Big Wheel Records and all that was about. So he shot the Piebalds album for We're the Only Friends We Have, and Stay What You Are for Saves the Day. He is like the behind the scenes that are in the liner notes.
He's really good buddies with one of my best friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Jeremy Newhouse. And Jeremy lived out in San Francisco, so I'm almost positive this is his buddy.
Yeah, I think that's right, because he had mentioned, I think he had mentioned San Francisco, and then it was L.A., and it was crazy because he was like seeing all the things that are going, like Fiddler Records coming around, and then like Big Wheel, and it's like this whole scene, just like where someone was in the United States and like what they saw, it all kind of comes together in this crazy little story that's been the last 4 years in this podcast. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, cool, man. So, all right. So I'm going to wrap this up. Before I ask the last two questions, I started doing this recently. Is there a story that you've always wanted to tell that because you've done interviews, but like, it's a story you've always wanted to tell that you've never gotten a chance to, and you want to do it right now?
Oh, man. There's all kinds of great stories. I mean, there's stories where we, there's like tour stories of just kind of antics, that kind of thing, or trying to think if is there something in particular that you're looking for? Like,
yeah, just anything that you think was like funny or random or super cool, but just it's always stuck in your mind. You're like, wow, no one's ever asked me this, but this one thing happened this one time that it could be super obscure. I don't know, just something that's in your mind. You're like, wow, I've always thought of this repetitively, and now I get a chance to say it out loud.
Oh man, that's a lot of pressure. I can tell you one. We had one really weird LA story once before. This was U.S. Songs, I'm pretty sure. Yes, it had to be. We had just finished recording that. We had played some kind of almost pay-to-play type thing in LA, like at the Whiskey or somewhere like that. There was like no one there, and I don't know if I've ever told. I've told this story so many times. I don't know if I've ever told it.
Is it been documented, or is this like this?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know
cool.
if it's been documented.
It's like, don't give me that like fucking secondhand bullshit.
That's right. That's right. But there's multiple parts of this story, but we can end it where you want to. But there's hardly anybody there. But the way that the club was set up had these huge bass monitors but they're all painted black and the floor is black. So it's just monitors, and I don't think anything is there. And there's hardly anybody there to see us. This is before the records, anything's out, so it was just one of those weird things. And Jonathan, everybody's going nuts like they normally do. Jonathan runs into me, and I go over the monitors. But like I have no idea that those bass subs are there, so I think I'm falling like a good 6 feet. I mean, it was a really high stage. So I'm just like thinking I'm dying, right? And my hands go out, and I stop right on the subs. And so I shoot back up, but I'm just pissed at that point. And I think I can't remember. I wouldn't have thrown my guitar, but I definitely like pushed Jonathan, or I did something where I was just like livid. But I can just imagine watching people, in that being like, what is going on? Like these guys are like throwing fists, and, but then how that story ends is even crazier. Is that like however the people turned up to these things, he was like, hey, what are you guys doing? And I'm sure Kevin or Jay or John will think, like, they're going to be like, oh, don't tell the story. I'm like, man, we're just going to go to laundromat, and then we're driving back to Kentucky or whatever. He's like, oh, you can come to my place and wash your clothes there. And we're like, okay, thanks, man. So he's like, you can stay. And so we go to this guy's house, and it's this huge mansion up in the hills, right? So we're like, man, this place is crazy. You live here? He's like, yeah, I live here. There's a guy. He lets some of us live here. And we're like, oh, okay. So we're walking by, and I'm going through the living room, and there's a big light table. And being a photographer, I'm like, oh, are you a photographer? He's like, oh, no, there's some guys here that are. And so I click the light table open, and it's just covered in pornography and film slides. I'm like, whoa, what is this? And then I look around, and I'm like, oh, this is this house. We're in this house. Whoa, what's going on? So it was just like, we were just like, yeah, let's get your clothes. We're getting out of here.
Wait, what was the house? Did you recognize what it was?
Yeah, like I was like, no, just like, oh, there's some people doing their thing in the pool. Oh, there's the pool. Oh, there's the living room. Like,
it was shot. All the film was in the house.
Shot there.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
And so we were like, how did we end up here? It's like, if we were, and like I said, like we were just that band that just did not take advantage of certain situations.
Yeah, right.
We were just, like most bands would be like, yeah, there's a Motley Crue party house. Like, like we were just like, get your clothes out of the dryer. Let's go. But yeah, that's one story that I don't think I've told it. At least you hadn't heard it, right?
I think that's hilarious that you knew. Like a light table. How big is that?
I mean, this was a big light table, so it was, we're talking, 4 by 4, just like a huge table in the back room, and they just have, it's basically like a light box, it's just like fluorescent lights and with plexi over top of it, and that way, and then the film is slide film, so that it's not negatives, it's positives. Like when you shoot, it's a positive on the actual film. And so, it's just, I wasn't having a negative backwards or anything. It was just everything
was full color.
Full color. It was exactly the way it was shot. That's how they shot, most magazine stuff back in the day was slide film. It had a better resolution, whatnot. But it was definitely that was an LA moment. It was just like, God, this place.
Oh yeah, that's like the one thing I think where the majority of bands have the stories that they can tell and like they really can't tell. It's after what happens when you're on stage, you're going like, hey, we're in town tonight, need a place to stay. And then I bet I bet if that was like the name of a book and then it was just stories, like where
Right,
people
right.
really told like the crazy shit that happened, where you're like,
Oh
even those
man.
tiny moments, that's where it all happens, is like that random house you show up to and either just like some shithole, or it's like
Exactly.
crackheads, or it's like this giant mansion, or apparently the Bang Brothers house.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. And we had all those. We had like, and it's always still someone being kind enough to put you up. But you're like, man, you really want us to sleep here? It's covered in dog crap. Like, what? You shouldn't live like this.
Yeah, that was like the worst. Where you just wanted to fall asleep and you'd walk in and some house, even at the smallest, would just smell like fucking cat piss like all over, and you're like, oh god.
And we had one of those, like you're talking like your buddies, like inside joke moment where we stayed at one of those places, and then in the morning, I guess the kid had like skipped school to like hang out with us or whatever. But it was like in the morning, we just hear the answer machine come on in the house, and it's the kid's mom, and she just keeps saying, band members, pick up the phone." And we're like, let's go. We just split. Yeah, there's a lot of those stories.
Oh my god. Oh, cool, man. So, all right. So I'm gonna wrap this up. Two questions before I ask the last one. What would you like to plug? It could be about you. It could be about a friend. It could be about both.
Oh man, I guess I really don't have much to plug. Just the show that's coming up, and if anything else materializes, we would just love to have everybody be a part of it.
Which date of Furnace Fest are you playing? That's Friday. That's weird. Oh, okay. So it's September 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Do you know which day you guys are playing?
Yeah, the 24th is in my head, but I don't have any kind of particular schedule or anything like that.
Wait, I think I have it. I think this is the right one. Oh, this one. I think this is last year's. There's Mineral on it. I don't think they'd be playing again this year. But I really want to say this because you could say like, oh, it's in the liner notes, and like no one looks at the fucking liner notes. Like no one does that shit. It's like, oh, read this. Like, what is? Yeah, you're right. It doesn't. It just says the 23rd to the 25th, but yeah, there are like 60 more bands they still need to announce, but it's just a small list. But you guys are just on the announcement, so it doesn't actually say.
Yeah, just people will keep out if they care enough, they'll figure it out.
Are you gonna stay for the weekend? I mean, you got like, because you had mentioned like Quicksand earlier, and just what you were talking about, like they're playing.
Yeah, no, I would love to. Yeah, I hope so. It's a hard one because we actually had shoots booked. So my wife, like my wife won't be there. I doubt the kids will, But yeah, if I have the opportunity, I definitely want to check out everybody that's there.
Yeah, fuck yeah. That looks like that'd be. I'm sure the more they get, this is gonna be crazy. But
Yeah, no, I've heard good things. But yeah, just even I've only seen Quicksand twice, I believe. Saw them once in Cincinnati, and then once in Louisville with they opened for Helmet, which was cool.
oh wow.
But they blew Helmet away. I mean, like, no offense to Helmet, they're great, but Quicksand at that time just that they just had the fire under them. It was just that perfect point. Oh, and I've seen them recently. I saw them in Nashville a few years ago.
Is that when they had the dude from Cave In?
No, I think it was when Tom had just got off the tour. I don't know. I say it like I know him.
Yeah, everyone knows what happened.
Yeah, and so I was really bummed out. But they were still great as a three-piece. But yeah, it was before that they got the new guitars.
Yeah, I saw them on that tour too, and they were a three-piece, and I was 2 songs in, I was like, nope, can't. I just paid stupid amount of money for this, but it was like, fuck, I'm not. They can't. And I love Quicksand so much, and it's not speaking negatively about them, but they are a 2-guitar band, so I was like, they can't do it with just 3 of them. There's no way. I could hear it. I was like, fuck
it was pretty good. But I hear you for sure. It was definitely like I missed the hearing component, and I think it's such an integral part of that whole situation. And so I understand when people feel that they get connected to a member, or when a band a certain way. I understand the struggle.
Yeah. I think it was cool that they got the dude from I keep forgetting the guy's name, but the lead singer from Cave In. He's such a gearhead with pedals and shit that getting him, A, it's cool that he's in it because you know who he is, and B, like because he's just a shredder on guitar. I thought that was a perfect person to fill the gap was him.
Yeah, and I had no idea. I just saw on someone's feed that because Thursday just played through Louisville. That big tour, and Norm was on it. I had no idea. I was like, man.
Yeah. I've been following his Instagram, just his personal Instagram, and he's like, "Oh, I'm just getting ready to play with Thursday." I was like, "What the fuck?" They did a Texas is the Reason cover, I think, in Louisville too.
Oh man, that's cool.
Yeah, like Scott, the bass player, I think it was there. He got up on stage with them and played.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I saw the video. It was awesome. All right, man. So I'll get back to your day, but last question: what scene ethics do you hold on to this day?
Oh man, that's a good question. And I think it's such a lame answer. Just the aspects of doing it yourself. Just of this has to be done. Well, then you don't have to rely on someone else to do it. You can book the place yourself. You can do the flyers. You can do the advertising, and you can create something. You don't have to, make it. You don't have to be the best at anything. You just do it. And by that I mean you don't need someone's permission to sing a song, or you don't need someone's permission to write a song or to take a photograph. You don't need a degree. You know what I'm saying? You don't need America's Idol. You don't need this stuff. Just do it. Get in a basement, a garage, or a barn, or whatever it is, and do it.